Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this The Past is Still Here Thursday, and here's why. Denali Dasgupta is standing by, dear friend of the show, great guest, great thinker, great talker, not afraid. She's not afraid to pick up the spare, which is a line I completely forgot I said until she reminded me. I forget so much. I say so much, I forget so much, and then people are reminding me, Ben, do you know you said that? I'm like, did I? And anyway, there's so many reasons why I say the past is still here. But one in particular struck me as I was reading today's newspaper. It's an obituary in the New York Times for a Pulitzer Prize winning Associated Press photographer who had just died at age 86. Jack Thornell is his name, Thornell. If you want to look it up, Jack Thornell. And I'm now going to show Denali the newspaper so she can see Exhibit A. I'm not making this up. She's very impressed. I'm showing the members of the jury the newspaper. And so Jack Thornell, when he was a young man back in the early 60s, was the photographer that Associated Press sent to the South to cover the civil rights movement. And as such, he took some dramatic photographs, to put it mildly, about various events, including the one that won him the Pulitzer in 1966. I actually remember this photograph very well. James Meredith, civil rights activist, was on a march through Mississippi, and a man shot at him. And Thornell captured the moment where Meredith hit the ground. He was not killed, he was injured. And it was an instantaneous reflex on the part of Thornell. And he captured not only Meredith on the ground looking back at where the bullet came from, but you could see the man who shot him. And it's that combination of all those things, the instantaneous capturing of the moment as it happened, Meredith looking back almost as if to say, what the heck? And there is the gunman. There's also a great photograph that he took of a Sheriff Lawrence Rainey, who was arrested and indicted for his role in the murder of the 3 civil rights workers, voting rights workers. That's a very important point. That's why I'm even doing this, who were in Mississippi, Goodwin, Schwerner, and Cheney, and they were kidnapped by the Ku Klux Klan and murdered, and their bodies were found about a month later. And this local sheriff was aligned with them. And so here's the prose in the New York Times. With a daring sleight of hand, he got the only shot of a Ku Klux Klan allied sheriff as he was arrested by the FBI. Just think about that for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Ku Klux Klan allied sheriff as he was arrested in FBI in the killing of 3 civil rights workers in Philadelphia, Mississippi in 1964. And then it goes on to talk about the dramatics of getting the photograph and how his editor was mad at him because he thought he missed the photograph of Rainey, and it turns out he captured somehow or other miraculously a great shot. And I urge everybody to read the obit or any obit about this gentleman. What a great life he had. A very important witness to what was going on in our country not that long ago. And the reason I raise this, obviously, and not just to pay my respects to a working journalist, but to talk about how they're eradicating the Voting Rights Act. That's why Goodwin, Schwerner, and Cheney were in Mississippi at that moment. That's what they were fighting for. That's what James Meredith was fighting for. That's what so many civil rights activists put their lives on the line to fight for it. And now Sam Alito and his cronies on the Supreme Court have decided, oh, well, we don't need it anymore. Well, they didn't want it in the first place. So it took them about, I don't know how many years to Denali do the years. I've lost track. 60 years, is that? 60 years to finally do away with it. As though there was the reasons that it existed, the Voting Rights Act, no longer matter. And I couple this, I've talked about this as well, with Donald Trump's effort to completely rewrite, and it's really not Donald Trump, it's Donald Trump's sidekicks, completely rewrite American history with their little cockamamie honor field, or whatever they're calling it. I forget the name of it, that they're going to build, they want to build, spend millions and millions of dollars building in Washington, which will honor great American heroes by rewriting their story, which is the one that just blows my mind the most. I've talked about is Martin Luther King, where instead of talking about his fight against injustice, his fight against inequity, which is still very much with us today, a very important fight, they're going to champion his can-do spirit so that he becomes somehow or other, I don't know, like a self-help guy, as opposed to one of the great civil rights leaders and one of the great activists, anti-war activists too. He took a stand against the Vietnam War. And he didn't take the stand like Tucker Carlson took the stand, by the way. Like, when it was a popular thing to do. He took the stand when it was an unpopular thing to do and took a lot of abuse for it, a lot of hate, a lot of death threats. In fact, there are those who believe that it was linked to his ultimate assassination a year after he took that strong stand. Anyway, shout out Jack Thornell. His photographs are haunting. They stand the test of time, and they establish, in my humble opinion, the importance of the fight we're in right now to just try to keep shreds of this legislation that passed in the heat of the civil rights movement of the 60s, just to keep it from being destroyed once and for all by MAGA and their judges. All right, without further ado, I'm going to bring on the great Denali. And somehow or other, Denali, I think I covered all the bases in that opening.
Remember, you can download episodes of The Ben Joravsky Show wherever you download podcasts. Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcast. Just search for The Ben Joravsky Show. J-O-R-A, V as in victory, S-K-Y. Subscribe, give us a review. But remember the rule, 5 stars only.